Hello, everyone. Welcome back to The Art of Being a Woman. I'm your host, Courtney, and today we are discussing the art of accepting what you can't control. I did a similar episode a while back. It was episode 8, and it was called The Art of Releasing the Need to Control Life. That episode focused more on loosening the grip on expectations, which can be hard because for many of us, we've experienced the unpredictable ups and downs of life, and it's very unsettling to experience that. When that happens to us, we tend to adopt a belief that by being very strategic with the things that we do, we can control or at least be very certain as to how our life will play out. And this is something that I've noticed about myself. For me, my life theme has always been about change, whether I like it or not. It was almost as if God was teaching me to never hold on to anything too tightly, because nothing is going to last forever. I know that when I experience change that I didn't predict, that I didn't necessarily want at the time, I had a very hard time accepting that it was truly for my highest good. And that makes perfect sense. When we're young, life is very confusing. We're just trying to make sense of things, hopefully, but sometimes we're just trying to have some sort of relief from the chaos that we can't control. This episode is going to be focused on releasing control, of course, but it's more specific. It's for the person that knows that they're not in control of everything, because that is just the reality of life. One of my favorite quotes is, "People plan and God laughs." Obviously, God's not literally laughing at us when we plan things, but I truly believe that we already have a life path set out for us. And of course, we have free will, so we can deviate from that path, but ultimately, life always pushes us back where we're meant to go, because each and every one of us chose to be here. We chose to be alive. We chose to be born to our parents, to be born in our environment, because we knew that we wanted to change the world in some way. And this doesn't mean that we need to change the world on a macro level. We don't all have to become universally known. Sometimes we come to this world truly to heal our family lineage and right wrongs that we might have done in a past life. Now, why am I even mentioning the spiritual aspect of life when I'm talking about releasing control? The reason why I am bringing spirituality into this topic is because in order to accept what you can't control in life, you have to be able to trust in something bigger than you. You have to trust in a higher power. Now, that can be God, that can be the universe, that can be your higher self, that can be your soul, whatever you want to call it. But you have to trust that there is something more to the physical reality that we're living in. Because if we don't trust in a higher power, then what happens is we start to feel the weight of the world on our shoulders. And we begin to get very anxious about life because we cannot see the future. We cannot predict how tomorrow is going to unfold. We can't predict how a year from now is going to look like for us. And sometimes we think that we can, because in the past, we've predicted certain things and it's worked out. Whether we've had a plan for our career, we would go to college, we would get this job once we graduated, and that worked out. So we believe that if we can predict some things in our life, why can't we predict everything in our life? And eventually, life catches up to us. We try our best to get an expected outcome in life. And sometimes it just feels like the world is working against us, that nothing we're doing is ever enough because we're not achieving our goal, or we're just not getting to the point that we expected ourselves to get to. And this can be very disheartening. It can be very hard to experience something like that, because when we want something very badly and we put in the work for it and we don't get the results that we feel like we deserve, it challenges our confidence, and it can also crush our hope, because we realize that just because we work towards something. And just because we followed a plan, it doesn't mean that we're guaranteed a reward. What I have learned from my own personal experience and from my own life is that when we are faced with these moments in life where we are not getting what we feel like we deserve, and our life is not going according to plan, life is giving us an opportunity to realize that we don't need our plans to unfold like we think we do to be happy. Now, that doesn't mean that things won't eventually work out for us. I truly believe that if I don't receive whatever it is that I want from life, it's because now is not the best timing, meaning if I were to receive it right now, I wouldn't be able to maintain it due to my own lack of confidence and maturity and inner strength. Or there's something better that is trying to come into my life, but I cannot receive it if I'm still dreaming small. And many times when we try to control life, we're dreaming small. And I know this because the whole idea of trying to predict outcomes is coming from a place of seeking that safety. Predictability is safety. Unpredictability feels very destabilizing, even if it is something exciting. Think about surprise parties. I know a lot of people love surprise parties, but I also know that a lot of people do not like surprise parties, and I bet that the control freaks do not like surprise parties because the idea of not knowing what's going to happen is so unsettling. So we're going to talk about this in depth, like we always do, and by the end of this episode, it is my goal that you have an easier time accepting what you can't control in your life. And I know that we all have an area in our life that no matter what we do, it is clearly out of our control, whether we want to admit it or not. The 4 steps that we're going to get into are the following. Step 1, know what's yours to control and what isn't. Step 2, recognize that control won't protect you. Step 3, accept that your life is bigger than your expectations. And step 4, understand what acceptance gives you. Let's get straight to step 1. Know what's yours to control and what isn't. The things that we have control over are our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions. That is it. Now, what isn't in our control? Everything else. So that means pretty much everything is outside of our control, whether we want to admit it or not. And the only thing that we can actually control is our own thoughts, our own feelings, and our own actions. Once we really drill this into our mind, we will be so much happier and we will be able to accept life for what it is a lot quicker. That doesn't mean it's going to be easy. Life is not easy. That's just the truth. Chaotic things happen and it's unsettling, but at least we can know in those moments that it was completely out of our control and there was nothing that we could have possibly done to change that. When we start looking at life that way, we can shift our focus. So instead of getting caught up on something that was out of our control that happened to us, we can shift to what's within my control. Oh, how I think, how I feel, and how I act. So how am I going to think about the circumstances in my life right now? How am I going to feel about the circumstances in my life right now? And how am I going to act based on the circumstances in my life right now? And when we do that, we really step into our power because the things that we have control over are our power. Step 2, recognize that control won't protect you. I will use my past self as an example for this step because that version of me needed control like I needed oxygen because I felt that if I wasn't in control of how my day unfolded and how my weeks and months and my year unfolded, that my life would fall apart, that I would fall apart. But the truth is, the only thing that would fall apart if I lost control, so to speak, would be the illusion that I was in control of so much outside of myself. But that's truly a very ego-based way to think. Because who are we to think that we're in control of things outside of ourselves? Life is so much bigger than just us. There's other people in this world that we share this space with, and we all have free will and we all have free choice. So just because we want something so badly, it doesn't mean that the whole world is going to bend to our will. And many times life will almost frustrate you on purpose and make your plans blow up in your face time and time again, so that you learn the lesson and you realize how much you're not in control. And when you go through that initially, it's so frustrating because you're putting in all that work to have things unfold smoothly. It can even feel like a personal attack from the universe, but it's really trying to teach you something way more valuable, because we don't realize how much trying to control things outside of us holds us back. It gives us so much anxiety and it makes us agitated almost, because we get angry when things don't go our way, especially when we have expectations. And truthfully, this was something that was hard for me to really sit with. It's not enjoyable to be around someone that is always trying to control things around them. It's very stifling, and it also adds that anxious, agitated energy to the room that you're in and the people that you're hanging out with. So consider all of that. Consider that control doesn't protect you from unexpected things happening in life. We know this because life is so unpredictable, even if we plan things to the T. And have in mind that not only does this desire to control things around you make you anxious and agitated, it also affects the energy of the people around you. So the next time you feel like you're about to lose it because something was supposed to unfold a certain way and it didn't, remind yourself that you don't need to be in control for things to be okay. They might not be your version of okay, but you will ultimately be okay. Step 3, accept that your life is bigger than your expectations. Many times when we are controlling outcomes in our life, it's really coming from a place of fear. We're dreaming small. We're thinking small. We can plan and we can have expectations for our life, but we need to make sure that we're okay with the plan changing as long as we end up happy and fulfilled in life. And that can be frustrating to hear if life is really hitting you hard. What gets me through those moments in my life, and sometimes those moments are not just moments, they're months and maybe they're years. What gets me through that is I remind myself that life is bigger than my expectations. And even if life is not making sense right now, I'm going to look back on this in 5 years from now, and I'm going to understand why things had to happen the way that they did. And that can be very hard for those of us that like to control things and know what to expect in the future, because we can't prove that whatever hardship we're going through in the moment is truly for our highest good. But that's where trust comes in, because if we didn't trust that whatever hardships we're going through is for our highest good, whether we realize it now or we don't, we become very anxious and very agitated with our life. And remember, the things that we have control over, 3 things: thoughts, feelings, actions. So if we're choosing those feelings of anxiety and agitation, that's a recipe for disaster. Whatever energy and emotion we are sitting in, we end up creating more of it, because like attracts like. So we will end up attracting more circumstances that give us more proof that we should be anxious about life and we should be scared for our future. And then we'll attract more situations that make us more agitated and irritated with how things are unfolding out of our control. And not only that, we'll attract people that feel the same way as us about life, only to mirror us and show us where we're holding ourselves back. It gets very deep. When we shift our thoughts and our feelings from that lack and we shift it towards acceptance, which is not easy to do, but if we push ourselves and we really fight to accept life for what it is, we will be able to give life an opportunity to prove us right. That's where our power lies. Our feelings and our thoughts create our reality. And before we move on to step 4, I just want to emphasize that we all have different life paths. Some of us are meant to really learn harsh lessons in certain areas of life. For one person, it can be career. They can really just deal with a lot of pushback in their career, their whole lives. But if they don't give up, they will eventually achieve an extreme amount of success. Because all that work that we put in on ourselves, on our thoughts and our feelings and our actions, they always end up paying off. It's not necessarily going to be when we want it to pay off. It's usually going to be when we no longer need it to pay off and we've reached that level of acceptance. Step 4, understand what acceptance gives you. Just the word acceptance used to really grind my gears when I was in my control freak era. It's so true. It's not even funny because it was so hard for me to really accept that something that looked so obviously negative was for my benefit. And if you're at that stage in your life, I get it. I do. But that's the test. It doesn't make sense to only be happy and accepting of life when things are perfect and things are going according to plan. And then we're miserable and we're anxious and we're angry when things don't go according to plan. We have to make up our minds. Do we appreciate life or not? If we're only appreciating life and accepting life when things are going our way and we're on the highs of life, we're not really accepting of how life works. That's like playing a board game with people and only being happy when you win, and every time you lose, you get very sour and bitter. I definitely was like that when I was very little, and I was humbled very quickly because I would always play games with my older family members, and they were very transparent that if I do not learn how to accept a loss, then I cannot play. And I feel like that's very similar to life. In order to fully participate in life and experience life to its fullest, you have to be able to take the losses. And think about it. When you lose a game, do you convince yourself that the game is horrible and you'll never play the game ever again? No, you just try again. And honestly, the more you lose, the less it matters and the less you get stung by it, because you realize that whether you win or not, it's not fully in your control. So you just embrace the wins and you allow the losses to humble you. And think about it. When we're able to accept a loss, and I don't really believe that anything's a loss. We always gain something, whether it's a lesson or we gain something physical. But when we can accept the things we can't control, we become free from that fear of things not going our way. And that feeling of freedom is so much better than the feeling of controlling everything. I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode. I really enjoyed discussing this topic with you. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you have an amazing week. Until next time, bye for now.